What does it take to become a tennis star? Does Africa have the potential of producing world-class stars in the game? Tonight in our exclusive interview, our reporter Dan Williams sits down with South Africa's top-ranked male tennis player, Kevin Anderson. Hello and a very warm welcome to Matchpoint here on CCTV Africa, where the focus is all things sport from the continent and beyond. I'm Mahia Mutua. Also coming up in this edition, we focus on sports betting in Africa and why it is fast becoming popular. And Africa's richest man's interest in buying Arsenal Football Club elicits mixed reactions. Well, let's begin with tennis. And there will be some African interest in the key clay court event of the year, the French Open, later this month. World top 20 player Kevin Anderson of South Africa is looking to reach his first ever Grand Slam quarter-final after reaching the fourth round for the last 2 years. Our reporter Dan Williams was in Madrid and sat down with Kevin Anderson.
At 6'8", Kevin Anderson is a giant of the game. A world top 20 ranking underlines the South African's consistency over the last couple of years. But despite some close shaves, it has now been more than 3 years since Anderson's last ATP tournament win. Something he knows needs to change.
I feel like my ranking over the last few years has definitely showed that. I feel I've put myself in good positions. Like you said, quite a few fourth round at the Slams, a few quarters at Master Series, and gave myself some pretty good chances to win a couple tournaments as well. And I think that's going to be the next step for me. Got to keep that consistency, but making a breakthrough and making I guess some bigger results at this stage relative to where my ranking is. And I think that's the difference between where I am now and where I want to get. To. The guys in top 5, top 10 are definitely getting those results.
Well, far from being a national hero for South Africa, Anderson has upset many South Africans. He's not played for his country in the Davis Cup since 2011, and even now there's no guarantee that will change.
Yeah, it's really tough to say at this point. It's been a really difficult decision. It's been asked of me a lot of times, and I know it's been a big issue for many South African fans, whether I'm playing or not. And I've just always tried to keep it as open and honest as possible, and just the really thing is I've put my schedule in front of that, and I just hope people understand my reasoning, and I'm out here each week giving it my best, and I think my ranking has definitely been a testament to that.
Anderson has at least left the Davis Cup door open for the future, but he feels he can inspire South African youngsters in a different way.
I've tried to take the stance of, I know growing up, seeing somebody where I am and, ranked, 15, top 20 for a while, I think that would have given me a lot of motivation. For me personally, more than somebody just playing Davis Cup. So, my hope is that kids who are wanting to play pro tennis, can see what I'm doing on the tour, and, I was in their same position all those years ago, and just to see that it is possible if you really put your mind to it.
Anderson's focus for now is on a crucial few months ahead, as he looks to reach a first ever Grand Slam quarter-final and possibly go one better.
We've got some big tournaments coming up. We've got the 2 Master Series and then French Open as well. So it's a very important time of the year. And then, you go straight to the grass where now you have, I usually play Queens, and that being a 500, and then Wimbledon. So there's some very big tournaments. I felt pretty decent results last year, making 4th round of French and Wimbledon, but definitely looking to take that next step. So. First step would be at the French, and then after that, Wimbledon's a fantastic tournament, and would love to make that extra step there as well.
If Anderson can achieve that, perhaps then he'll get the praise from his country that achievement would deserve. Dan Williams, CCTV, Madrid.
Right now, for more on this, we can now go live to Madrid, where our reporter Dan Williams is standing by to join us live. Dan, obviously Kevin Anderson was in action there this week. How is his form in the Spanish capital as he goes heading into Roland Garros?
Yeah, look, he's certainly got the game. He's shown that a number of times, hasn't he? And to reach the fourth round of the French Open over the last couple of years is quite a significant achievement. And it would look as though clay is a surface that he can take his game to the next level. But it has to be said, he arrives almost with his game not looking at all good at all. He crashed out in the second round in Estoril a week or so ago, and then crashed out in the first round here in Madrid, but he did reach the fourth round of the Australian Open earlier this year, so he's proven that he's still got the game for the big tournaments, and also he still remains within the world's top 20. So he's shown again that his consistency is certainly there. But whether he can now take it to the next step, well, now we'll have to wait and see. Certainly over the next couple of months, it's a vital time for Kevin Anderson as he goes into the prime years of his career.
So, Dan, it is a waiting game for Kevin Anderson, but he did raise the issue of young tennis players back in South Africa. What else can we expect from these youngsters in South African tennis in the not so distant future?
Yeah, look, I think it's fair to say that right now, South Africa tennis outside of Kevin Anderson, there's not an awful lot else, it has to be said. Tucker Vorster, the South African #2, he's ranked 370 odd in the world, so he's unlikely to trouble in the coming years. There are a number of youngsters coming through, and I think that came across in Kevin Anderson's interview there, where he thinks that there is a real chance that, you know, the likes of him, his example, can potentially kind of prove to South African youngsters that it can be done, that a tennis player in South Africa can challenge the world's best. But if you look around the rest, there is Raven Klaasen. He reached the doubles final in Australia a year ago, so in the doubles side of things, he has a chance. If you look at the women, there's Chanel Skippers. She did also reach the fourth round of the French Open last year, but she's tumbled outside of the world top 100, so it's going to be a big ask for her to repeat those kind of dizzy heights. And then other than that, you're really looking at the wheelchair tennis players, the likes of Lucas Sitoli, who won the US Wheelchair Tennis Open 2013 in fact, and so you're really looking at the likes of him potentially of taking something out of the next couple of months or so. But really it's all about Kevin Anderson, whether he can continue to fly the South African flag, the flag for Africa really. He is inside the world top 20, as I say, and whether he can now take that next step and reach forward to the quarterfinal or perhaps even better.
All right, Dan, thank you very much for that update. We will indeed keep an eye out for Kevin Anderson on the road to the French Open. That was CCTV's Dan Williams joining us live from Madrid. Well, moving on, Brazil's sports minister George Hilton toured new installations at the Brazilian anti-doping laboratory in Rio de Janeiro on Friday. If the lab is accredited by the World Anti-Doping Agency later this month, it could be used to test blood samples during the 2016 Olympics and Paralympics. That decision could come during a WADA meeting in Montreal on May the 13th, and the Brazilian anti-doping laboratory could be accredited to start testing for official Olympic test events as soon as July. The lab, previously known as Lab DOP, was first created in 1989 and moved to its new state-of-the-art facility last year when the name was changed to the Brazilian Anti-Doping Laboratory.
Teremos hoje, através do Sistema Nacional,
today, through the national sports system, we're not just assuring that there isn't discontinuity, but also that we always have the resources that should be there, not just the laboratory, but for every other division of sport that is dependent on public policy, that it is always updated with no technology.
Eles fiquem sempre atualizados.
Let's take a short break here on Matchpoint. Plenty more still to come, including we focus on sports betting in Africa and why it is fast becoming popular. Welcome back. Now, South Africa improved their chances of winning the 2014-2015 HSBC Sevens World Series title after reaching the main cup quarterfinals at the Glasgow Sevens. The leg in Scotland is the penultimate stage in the World Series. The Blitzbokke lead the standings on 129 points, 4 ahead of second-placed Fiji. South Africa opened day one in Glasgow with a 19-12 win over Samoa before beating Kenya 22-5 in their second game. The loss was Kenya's second after an almost similar margin loss in Game 1 to New Zealand. The result saw Kenya drop to the bowl as they failed to improve on recent performances. Kenya's sevens team has failed to live up to expectations this year, and even as teams begin the race to qualify for Rio 2016, as Celestine Caronet reports, it is not just the sevens team that is struggling as far as Kenyan rugby goes.
The 2014-2015 Rugby Sevens World Series season is in its final 2 legs, and it couldn't have come to an end soon enough for Kenya. It has been a difficult year for Africa's second-best Rugby Sevens team at the international level. Back home, the Kenya Rugby Union embroiled in boardroom tussles and sponsorship wars. But in all this, newly elected chairman Richard Omwela remains optimistic.
There's no crisis at all. We were on the ground. Just where else can we go? There were issues with the previous board head with the players, and I had to have interviews with them and just find out what is the problem so that we deal with the problem is. And I realized problems about contracts that they had signed that were not being met by the board, and to restore that confidence, to get the team back, I had to do it. So that was the priority number one, to get the players back on the pitch.
Despite these efforts, the damage to Kenya's Sevens World Series season had already been done, and now the Olympic dream is under threat. Kenya failed to contest for one of the 4 automatic spots to the Rio 2016 Games. The team is currently 13th, and they must now win the African qualifier in November if they are to reach Brazil.
And the players know it. They know that we must win or qualify to get in the Olympics. So there's a very, very serious ambition to be able to qualify. We'll come up against the likes of Zimbabwe, Tunisia, Morocco, Uganda, who on a good day they want to kick Kenya as much as they can, but we're up to the challenge.
On the 15th front, the country is also facing its challenges. The union was unable to fund a return to the South African competition Vodacom Cup this year. Last year, Kenya's close shave with World Cup qualification was credited to an improved performance because of the Vodacom Cup.
What 15s lack, as we all know, is competitions. Vodacom was a very good experience. We were invited to go back, but it is a very expensive competition. With the help of the World Rugby, we are getting Portugal here end of May, and we're getting Spain to come in June. So we're thinking that with the 15th team program we have, we should be able to improve on our ranking and improve on our play.
The union says that they have implemented changes in their systems to restore corporate confidence after a major sponsor walked out, as they work towards steadying the ship after a turbulent couple of months. For now, the union, along with Kenyan fans, hope their team can salvage some pride in the remaining 2 legs of the World Series. Celestine Caronet, CCTV, in Nairobi.
Now, sports betting is a booming business in Uganda and many parts of the continent, with many football fans cashing in on a successful prediction. But the business has turned into a source of living than a hobby for many. Leon Senyange now reports.
Riding his way to a betting shop, Male Paul has been placing bets on football teams for at least 2 years now. The taxi bike rider says despite some losses, he has earned more from betting than from his job.
I won some good money from betting, and I managed to buy myself a new bike and a piece of land.
Whereas some bettors strike it rich, others continuously lose cash but are not about to stop participating. Ismail Chigongo is a betting consultant. He says too often the stories of the big winners have kept more young people heading to the betting houses for a quick buck.
We live in a generation that prefers a lot of the soft things and things that come much easier to them. And you can imagine in betting, you could make 20 million within 2 hours, having bet less than 5,000 Uganda shillings. And I think that's one of the pull factors.
Most bettors here stake their money on European football leagues, and that has kept the over 1,000 registered sports betting companies in business. The National Lotteries Board has set up laws to regulate the operations of sports betting companies, but the ever-rising participation in this form of gambling among young people is becoming an increasing concern. Now, many young Ugandans are abandoning participating in what would be productive activities and spending their time in sports betting centers.
I've heard stories of children who have lost their school fees at university, in high school, because they are spending their money on betting. So it's a huge concern. But I think on the other hand, people have got to create that employment opportunity that gives them that extra money that they can spend on the things they call leisure.
Betting and gambling earns Uganda over $4 million a year in taxes. And with the industry growing at a rapid pace, sports betting, after all, could continue to be a safe bet on the incomes of people like Malay. Leon Senyange, CCTV, Kampala.
Right now, for more on this, we are joined live here in studio by Kester Muhanji. He is the Chief Marketing Manager of Sport Pesa, a sports betting company here in Kenya. Kester, welcome to the program. I'll begin by asking you, why exactly is sport betting becoming increasingly popular here in Kenya and in Africa?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I think it follows the fact that in Africa and South America, sports actually a very key thing.
Right.
And people have always been following sports, and people have always been placing bets on their own. So now that there are formal setups where they can actually do that, it then follows that the uptake is likely to be much more.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that explains why it's very easy to convert from the informal bettings to a formal setup.
To a more formal setup. Okay. Now,
yes.
Speaking about the age of people who engage in betting, obviously before it probably could be said that it was an old man's game, but nowadays we see more young people, you know, engaging in online betting. Why is that?
I think one key thing is technology. Right. The fact that on a platform like ours, you can actually do it from the comfort of your home. And we know the younger generation is so much into social media and all that, so they can actually do that from home. So that explains why. The other thing is most of the people who follow sports are actually, again, the youth. Yeah. So I think that's why the uptake among that
age is now
age
more
is
accessible. Okay, now briefly
yes.
take us through, for the layman, for example, you know, Pacquiao versus Mayweather is on. What is the process that goes into sports betting?
Okay. What you need to have done is, first of all, register.
Right.
And registration is very easy. You just send the word game, like to our platform, it's to 79079. And then you read the terms and conditions and reply with the word accept. Once you do that, you just transfer the money from your M-Pesa or Airtel account or wherever into your mobile wallet. Then with that, for example, if you use the match of Mayweather, if you're putting your money on Mayweather, then you would put the game ID, which would probably be given about four digits. Then you put hash. Then if it's for Mayweather, you put 1. Then you put another hash, and you put the amount you want to put on. If you think it's going to be a draw, again, you put the game ID, then you put hash. Then for a draw, it's X. Then another hash, then the amount. So it's pretty straightforward.
It seems straightforward, but finally, I'll ask you, as a betting company, how exactly do you calculate the odds that go into a bet? I don't know if this is insider trading, but how exactly as a company do you come up with those odds?
Okay, what we do is, of course, a lot goes into determining an odd. And to do that locally would be almost impossible, because you need a team of over 100 people. Right. People to look at injuries, people to look at probably personal. Info. Exactly. So currently what we do is we outsource. We actually get an international company to determine the bets on the games that we're interested in. And that way it makes our life easier. So ours is just to execute the games.
All right, Kester,
yes.
Thank you very much for that. We will continue to see, I'm sure, a bigger boom when it comes to online sports betting. That was Kester Muhanji joining us live in studio. He is the Chief Marketing Manager of SportPesa, a sports betting company here in Kenya. Well, it's time for us to take another quick break. Still to come. Africa's richest man's interest in buying Arsenal's football club elicits mixed reactions.
Usain Bolt's in town. We've got a rugby version. I'm not sure what sort of a dance that is.
Kiranesh Dibaba of Ethiopia wins 10,000 metres gold.
Lewis, well done. You're an absolute legend.
Now, Africa's richest man is making debate in Nigeria over his hopes of buying English football club Arsenal. Nigerian billionaire Aliko Dangote, who owns a number of cement plants across Africa, made his plans known earlier in the week. However, his critics believe that it would be more helpful if he first helped out Nigerian football. Here is CCTV's Leslie Mirungu.
If wishes were horses, we would all buy one. But this wish to buy English football club Arsenal is more of a horse than a wish to one man. Nigerian billionaire Aliko Dangote has renewed debate on his bid of one day buying the team, which is currently valued at $1.49 billion. But inasmuch as it's fodder for debate, the question of whether he can or cannot has raised voices in his critics who say that Dangote should have first thought of investing in Nigerian football.
Maybe it's the right business decision for him. That's left for him to decide. But we can only appeal to him that while planning and strategizing on what he wants to do in terms of buying Arsenal in the future, he could also look inwards as well to help develop our domestic game to the level where the English Premier League is at the moment. I mean, what we've lacked in Nigeria is a proper business structure for our clubs, a proper business plan for our clubs.
Nigeria, who are the 2013 African champions, are ranked 45th by FIFA. They failed to qualify for the Africa Cup of Nations staged earlier this year in Equatorial Guinea. The country's football governing body is mired with corruption and has of late escaped 2 possible suspensions by FIFA. Nigerians are expressing mixed reactions over Dangote's aspirations. Some feel that even if he were to try help the country, it would be futile.
Our football has a national problem. There is a system problem. It will not automatically translate into him developing the national league. Even if he is in charge of the league, he can't do it all of a sudden. It's a problem system. So we have a league that is not properly run. We have a league that is not even on television. And whatever you don't have on television is open to a lot of manipulations.
I expected him to start from the Flying Eagles, or maybe the Golden Eaglet, at least something like that should have been more better off, instead of going over there to get such an expensive thing like that.
One thing though stands out about the whole situation, that Dangote's presence in the Nigerian football scene would change the sport completely.
We know that Nigeria at the moment we have a lot of challenges, infrastructural challenges, power, no power. A lot of these challenges are here in Nigeria, but it has not stopped Aliko Dangote from making a success of his cement business, of his sugar business, of his other businesses that he's doing. Because what it does is that it creates a conducive environment around these businesses that will make them thrive. The same thing can happen in our sports, in our football.
Soccer remains an abiding passion and a unifying platform for the country's over 170 million people. According to a 2013 poll by Repucom, 83% of Nigerians report interest in soccer and 65% play the sport. Leslie Mirungu, CCTV.
Finally, South African golfing icon Gary Player was in London this week to launch the 2015 Gary Player Invitational Tournament, which is aimed at supporting poor youth. The Golf and Giving with DePaul UK charity will be the main beneficiary from the upcoming tournament, which will be held in July.
The 9-time major winner was in northwest London to see where funds from the Gary Player Foundation are being used. DePaul UK is a charity that gives young homeless people a place to live and support in finding jobs and homes.
Across the UK, DePaul is helping young people who face homelessness to have a safe place to live, to make safe choices and to have a positive future. We believe in the potential of every young person, and this help means that we can help those young people to find jobs, find homes and in the end create a great future for themselves.
The world-renowned golfer got a great reception from both staff and young people alike on his visit, as well as talking to the young people in the care of DePaul UK about their life and the charity. He also managed to give them a few golfing tips too. The Berenberg Gary Player Invitation is the UK's leading pro-celebrity charity golf event. Each team of 2 amateur guests are joined by a professional and a celebrity for their round. The event takes place on Monday 20th July at the Wentworth Golf Club. The golfing legend also looked ahead to the future of the game by acknowledging great players such as Jordan Spieth and Rory McIlroy, calling them great ambassadors for the sport.
Jordan Spieth is a wonderful young gentleman and a phenomenal putter. Really, he's the best putter probably on the tour today. And if you look at Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson, they were very poor drivers of the ball, but they were number 1 and number 2 because they putted so well. So I'm a great admirer of Jordan Spieth, but I think the best golfer in the world today is Rory McIlroy. Well, he's number 1. That doesn't tell a lie. I'm always a man who goes by the record. Rory McIlroy is such a great ambassador for Britain. Honest to goodness, I mean, great parents, wonderful golf swing, hard work in the gym, which, you know, I like to see him do.
2015 holds much celebration for Gary Player as he celebrates his 80th birthday, as well as the 50th anniversary of his US Open victory. Wazir Khamsin, CCTV.
Well, that does it for this week's edition of Matchpoint. Remember, you can send your feedback to matchpoint@cctv.com. You can also visit our social media pages, CCTV Africa on Facebook, and the Twitter handle is CCTV News Africa. Thanks for watching. As always, we'll leave you with a new Move of the Week segment, which comes from Barcelona's midweek humiliation of Bayern Munich, and specifically Jerome Boateng.